thank you to the Omnius team and everybody for having us and myself here today. It's great to be here rather than in Hong Kong right at the moment. As you know, it's been getting a bit of airtime. I'll come back a little bit to the business I represent in a few moments, but I wanted to share our purpose at the start of this discussion, working together to accelerate the digital transformation of insurance. So we're the world's largest B2B platform that shares information and connects people up on this specific topic. And actually, as somebody who's been in the insurance industry for quite a long time, I can honestly say it's the most exciting time the industry has ever seen. But actually, as a customer, it's the most frustrating time. Now, shall I have a quick show of hands? Who's got an insurance policy in this room, right? Actually, probably the more important question is anybody who's not got any insurance in this room, so I'm sure that one of the insurers will see you later, right? But the reality is, and some of you will have just seen it, there's some big problems with our industry. It's a $5 trillion industry, and yet it's one of the least trusted sectors in the world. Least trusted sector in the world. And it doesn't end there in terms of the bad news for insurers. If you look at actually how customers feel about their service experience and their digital experience in particular, it fares worst out of every sector. So we're one of the biggest sectors in the world, and yet we rank lowest on two of the most important things for customers. So it's great that the Omnius team have actually chosen to put customer at the front of the discussion in today's conference. So thanks again for that. Now, despite this backdrop, there's good news. And the good news is InsurTech. And we see InsurTech as being the key that's going to unlock Pandora's box and act as the catalyst for change across our industry. Obviously, technology is being deployed in different ways. On the left-hand side of this diagram, we have what are called improving today areas of deployment. So looking at the existing things that insurers do and how technology can improve those. On the right-hand side, we've got reinventing tomorrow, creating new ways of doing insurance. So without further ado, I'm going to get stuck into our panel here because we've got a really interesting panel that represents big and small, old, existing, new. So we're going to have a really good interactive discussion, I hope. And we'll come back to this visual a little bit later when we get into Q&A. But what I'm going to ask each of the panelists to do is briefly introduce themselves, their company, and come out with one story or example of how they're using technology to improve things for all of us as customers. They've got 3 to 4 minutes each. That challenge is set for all of us as well as the organizers. So if they go over by too much, I'm going to cut them on our behalf. Okay, that's the rule. Firstly, over to Christian, or Fristian, as you're well known.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Christian van Leeuwen. I'm the co-founder at FRISS, and also known as my AKA Fristian. At FRISS, we fight fraud and mitigate risk. We help insurance carriers to do that both in underwriting and in claims. We've been around for 13 years. We have over 150 implementations worldwide for carriers and insurance companies that use our platform. And we integrate to a great number of external data sources in order to get data into our platform, combine it with the data of the carrier, and to bring that back into the process where the carrier can make a decision on during underwriting or in claims processing. If you flip it to the next, thank you. So what I wanted to point out, what the experience we have also working with insurance companies worldwide. We have 100% focus on insurance carriers, and fighting fraud is not, let's say, is our main core thing what we do, but it closely relates to bringing back honest insurance. That's what we do. So we want to help insurance companies to make insurance more honest. How we do that, I'll come back to that in a minute. And there's a close relation to honest chocolate. And that's why this candy bar is here up. There's a long story behind it. I will keep it short for now, but if you want a full story, just approach me afterwards and I'll tell you the story and even send you a candy bar if you want. The chocolate is about a person which is from the Netherlands, and he started a chocolate factory because he's seen in research that child labor was still in place by crafting the old chocolate bars, and he started to totally disrupt that business. It's now a huge business. He sells them across the whole world, and that's where he, on his own, from the idea that he saw 13 years ago, also founded that business and started making that more honest. And that's where we see a close relation to insurance, because fraud really takes away the foundation of insurance, where it helps people to live their lives, to feel comfortable in what they do, and insurance is there to protect them. And that's why we don't like fraud, and we want to support the carriers in using that. What we typically do is either in claims or in underwriting to show, to give back the FRISS score in the process to help the insurance companies that use FRISS in making that experience as smooth as possible. So if it's, for instance, in a claims automation, marking a customer and a claim dark green enables a straight-through process. If there's something happening, it can be flagged as red and it can be then handled accordingly. And the same goes for underwriting, where we support a total STP in underwriting. And that's what we're going to talk about this, today, that we see a lot of challenges in digitalization, in getting the data right, in getting it at the right point in the process to make the best out of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian, and perfect timing. Now I've got to ask the question, I'm sure on many people's minds, as you've raised our expectations around honest chocolate, have you got some freebies at the back for us?
So I didn't brought them today, but I'm going to get them out to you. So approach me, and I will make sure that everybody gets one.
Okay, very good hook. Okay, thank you. We'll come back to you shortly. Now my pleasure to hand over to Monika. Welcome, representing the existing carriers sort of perspective. Over to you.
So I'm Monika Schulze, the Global Head of Customer and Digital Experience. And the sequence is very important because our strategy is now to be customer-led, as for many of you. But it's not that technology is first. We say customer centricity is first, and then technology is an enabler. And I believe that this is really the trick in order to go forward and transform the industry. Because there's a tendency to be technology-led first, and that means we throw a lot of technology on the market without thinking of sequencing, thinking of focus, and saying, what do I want to really achieve? What is my value proposition, especially compared to others? Because if I look at the insurance industry, and I'm coming from a completely different one, there's a slight tendency that everybody's doing the same. But the question is, how can we differentiate, and how can we be better and different than others? And for that, technology can help quite a lot. But the question is, what do you do, and what is your focus point? And when you asked me to have one chart, I was like, I cannot do it, so I put 4 on one chart.
It didn't go unnoticed. We've all tried this one. I'll let you get away with it. Yeah.
So I think it is very tempting to think that technology can help us to transform the business. But I sincerely believe the transformation is to be truly customer-led. And the question is, how do you get there? And one thing is also very important. I mean, ask your customers to be innovation-driven. It is very tempting to say we have, machine learning, machine intelligence experts, and over to the engineers to decide everything, which we just heard. And I think it's good. I mean, not everything can be decided by the CEO. But the question is also, how do I really make sure that I don't do something because I'm in love with it, but the customer need is against it as well? And there, I also believe it's very important to say we have to do it alongside the journey. There's a slight tendency to be completely focused on claims, for instance. Yeah? Claims, we do a lot. But the question is also, how do I get people on board? How do I make sure that I have a higher frequency of touch? Because one of the challenges we have is a low trust level, but that's also because the frequency of touch is very low. Yeah? On average, maybe every 2 years we have contact with somebody if there's no renewal which you have to do, or if it's done automatically. So how do we develop trust in a relationship to customers if we don't have a point of contact? So this is something where you can say involve the customers, involve them also with open innovation platforms like many companies have, like Lego or also Starbucks, for example. So there's a lot of things you can do. And this is why I put the cartoon there as well. I think there's also a slight tendency that we always together with the same people. People with green pullovers who always turn in circles with the same stuff. The question is, how do we get outside of the box, get thinking into the industry, which is different? And right now the times are great because there's so many startups and so many things we're doing right now where we're challenged and we have to think differently. But the pain and the pressure is not that high yet, if you ask me, because we still earn a lot of money. And the question is, how do we increase the pressure and make sure that we have a different approach? And if you look at the and if you look at the innovation rate and success, and that's my last chart on the right-hand side, it's pretty clear if you're only, in connotation marks, technology-driven, the chances of success are relatively low. If you include customer insights or even the customer directly, the chances of success increase by 3. Success rate of innovation is not very high per se, and the question is how can you increase it? And the customer has a big chance there as well. And you asked us, Simon, by the way, what are you most proud of? I'm very proud of that I started a partnership with FinTech 2 years ago. So it's a New York-based startup which we brought into Europe. We set up a partnership with them starting in Spain, but now we also went into Switzerland. And I'm very proud that we managed this whole relationship between big corporate and then working together with a startup. And believe me, I mean, the culture is so different. It is not that easy to bring the teams together. But I think we managed pretty successfully based on the business results, and especially now looking at Spain. I mean, we have conversion rates from leads to sales up to 15%. Market average is 2 to 3. So I think the first results look very good. And there, I think it's also good to mention that we bridge the old world with the new world, because in the end, it's an online platform, digital. You can do everything in a digital way, but we combine it with a call center, so people can also talk to the call center, and also with the agent channel. Because in the end, you have to leave the customer the choice how he addresses the insurance industry. And digital is important, but sometimes people still need to talk to people as well.
Very good. So thank you very much. Great positioning. I think the really interesting thing we may come back to beyond everything you've just said is your title, right? Where customer becomes before technology and digital's part of the customer environment that you're focused on. So that's quite unusual in the insurance sector and quite progressive, I would say. So we might come back to that a little bit later. But thank you. We're going to move on now to Joachim. Simplesurance, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. It was really interesting, Monika, what you just said. So we are one of these startups which hopefully is helping to bridge the old world to the new world and increasing the pressure. My name is Joachim. I'm co-founder of Simplesurance, which is an insurtech startup based in Berlin, whereas we have been in business now for over 7 years, so we're not that young anymore. I would consider ourselves to be one of the earlier companies in this area. When we started, the term insurtech didn't really exist. I mean, obviously, insurtech per se, but the vertical and the hype around insurtech was not there yet. That changed dramatically, obviously, during the last 2 to 3 years. So we've got quite a history in that segment, and we build a platform with a wide range of insurance services, including sales and distribution, and the after-sales part with the claim acquisition and claim management. And we do this, meanwhile, across the whole of European Union. So we serve customers in 28 countries. We've got a platform which is capable to work in all these countries. Per se, we are not an insurer, we're an intermediary. We do cooperate with strategic partners, larger insurance corporations. In Europe, for example, we cooperate with Allianz or Thomas Cook. In Japan, we cooperate with Tokio Marine. Those players are in part also invested in our company and help us funding the project. So we build a cross-selling platform which is helping to sell insurance products in any kind of digital channel to get in touch and acquire the customer. And predominantly we look at younger generations, digital natives. And with that spot, we basically hit an increasing question from the industry. I think this is the center point of our business model. How can an insurance company in the future get in touch and acquire young customers? And I think it's no secret that the way it was done during the last decades, it's not going to be in the future. Younger generations just have different expectations, and the old distribution networks, the brokers, the agents are breaking apart. We observe something similar happening in the banking industry since a few years. They shut down branches. There's less and less physical touch points to customers. And the same will happen, and it's accelerating to the physical broker networks. We see already a heavy decrease every year of branches and offices in the pedestrian areas. So this needs to be answered. So this is a question in the industry which we do answer. We convert basically a tremendous amount of touch points with customers. We convert them into a valid broker-insurance relationship. So we start acting as an insurance broker with our digital applications, obviously with a high degree of automatization. And there's a huge challenge if we look at the next slide, basically. So this is describing the main point around our business. So we believe that the way customers are acquired will be different in the future. We bring them through our mobile applications onto our platform. We increase the touch points. We increase the engagement. We just heard from Zurich that in average they have a touch point every 3 years, which I consider is quite good compared to what we see with other insurance companies. I've seen insurance companies which have an average every 8 years a touch point with their customer, and this indeed is a problem. So the challenge here for us to work as a broker is data and lack of data standards, because the industry basically has missed out the last 20 years of creating standards. There's no such thing as standardized interfaces or APIs. And we take on all the heavy lifting on our side, develop software solutions basically to deal with all these unstructured data in the market, to help our customers to create value. So just to provide an example, in Germany we look at roughly 500 insurance companies. Those 500 insurance companies maintain a host of estimated a couple of million different policies with different structures, with different terms and conditions. And we do communicate with these insurance companies via email, via paper, via fax, in the best case via CSV and API interface. So we take on basically all the work to convert this unstructured data into structured data with a machine learning software, to make use of them in many different ways, whether this is providing better offers to our customers, whether this is increasing touch points, whether this is increasing the engagement, and ultimately, obviously, we want to build a long-term, long-lasting customer relationship and create some lifetime value here with our customers. Thank you. Great, thank you. And Joachim, I'm right in saying you're expanding quite quickly, increasingly over Europe, also in my part of the world with Japan, is that right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So we cover all of Europe right now. We are in the process of launching business in Japan, which is our first office outside Berlin. We have now 150 people working here in our Berlin office, and now we've created the first office in Tokyo. And we are in the process to launch. Yeah, sorry, I'll move us on, otherwise, but we'll carry on with that later. So thank you. Right. Certainly not, well, maybe saving the best till last, but my pleasure to hand over now to Linda, CEO and founder of Brandlab, to bring us the most out-of-industry perspective on this panel, but I'm sure we've all got different out-of-industry perspectives. But Linda, over to you.
Hello. I can clearly say that we are touching the industry of insurances slightly, but we are mostly working with other industry. I'm talking a lot today about what I'm observing out of, like, across all industry. What is really happening also in your industry is, I think, that new technologies makes you really focusing on internal processes and how you predict different things, how you change your business modeling and what all your offerings and how you structure your company. I observe this especially also in the automotive industry, but this is also widely happening in the industry of insurances. If you go to the next chart, we are an agency that is specialized in brand identity and marketing. We have a very nice research project right now going on for our client where we really focus on how you really target especially new target customers. We are enabled to work with machine learning and AI on how we not only build and create marketing applications, but also whole identities that are based on local taste patterns, when you have a look at Instagram profiles, audiovisual content in general, what appeals to young customers. And not only that, we are creating synthetic models that create identity influence based on very personalized customer data. So we are not only saying that we create taste patterns and are able to predict of what these target customers really like, we can also highly personalize the outcome and how you appeal as a brand or with your products to a certain customer profile and individual people. Saying that in the center, for example, you see what we call customer influenced identity. This is basically one person and an input of this person on how these people touch their mobile phone or any devices, on how they move, they carry their devices with them, or how they talk. We are able to really take this data, and these curves you see here in the center is one person and the data that is predicted and an output that is created from the AI out of these data. And taking this model, customer influenced identity and marketing purposes, we are now also enabling what we call human enhancing design, meaning that the greater purpose of what we do really means to create positivity, happiness, well-being, that we would like to have an active influence on the emotions of the people you'd like to talk with. That's my introduction for today.
Very good, thank you. We'll be back to you shortly. So let's move into some discussion now. We've got a really interesting panel, as we've just seen. 4 years ago, when the term insurtech sort of popped up, and it's still to be clearly defined, but it kind of came about really 3 or 4 years ago, all the hype, I think, was around the right-hand side of this chart, how new technology companies are going to kill the existing business, create new ways of doing insurance. There's going to be utopia for customers, and a lot of the existing carriers are going to fall away. Now, 4 years on, 90% of the deal flow is on the left. Insurtech's working with existing carriers to help them solve their problems, improve things for customers. But there's a lot in here. We could talk about this all day. We haven't got the time. My first question to the panelists is whether or not insurers and the market's got the balance right at the moment. And I appreciate this is not an easy question. It's not an easy thing to answer as an insurer. But so maybe I'll start, Monika, with you. As representing an existing insurer, have you got the balance right between focusing on solving the smaller things and reinventing insurance?
To be honest, I think there's a lot of focus on the bigger things. And this is why I'm so adamant about customer journeys and looking at the customer journeys. We're putting a lot of effort right now in looking at the nitty-gritty and solving the basic pain points. I mean, I give you one example. If you create a chatbot and everybody is really happy with this chatbot, but then a customer wants to call you and you scroll down, it takes you a long time to find the numbers. And then you find 10 different telephone numbers and you have to know your policy number in order to find out which telephone number to call. People get annoyed and your chatbot doesn't help you. Yeah? Or what we still do is, in some cases, send out letters nobody understands. And I went to a call center the other day and they told me, look, you really have to help us because 50% of the calls are still because people ask questions about the letters we send out. Yeah? If you do that, then it doesn't help if you have machine learning, chatbots, online portals, and whatever we're looking at. I think it is very important to fix the basics and at the same time then go to the bigger things.
Okay, okay, thank you. Joachim, do you agree with that? Well, and it's okay to disagree.
That's okay. I can listen.
Yeah, you've got to be careful what I say. I think the balance is getting better, if we can agree on that.
No.
I mean, just by matter of fact, the investment in this area in new technologies in insurtech is every year increasing. I mean, that's a matter of fact, and I think some of these investments will have a longer-term impact, which might not be visible yet. But we observe a lot of larger insurance companies organizing their digital strategy, indeed, and their structures around that. But I think the missing piece here is rethinking and reinventing the way insurance business is done per se. If you look at the responsibilities on board level of larger insurance corporations, you will find a digital transformation officer which hasn't been there 5 years ago, or whatever the position is called. But on board level, you probably have a responsibility. Typically, such person has been serving 15 years plus in the insurance industry. So if you design a system, and this is about change management, if you design a system to do something, don't be surprised that it is doing it. So if you want to have a digital business model, you need to put digital first, which starts with a person on top who is responsible for such business, which is a digital person.
Okay, good. Frisian. I keep thinking Frisian. Anything to add?
That sticks, yeah. So no, I think the balance, we see a lot of examples that go either left or right in terms of the one thing that you want as a company is to jump the curve. So you want to get to the next level where you want to be. And a lot of the innovations that I see are more or less trying to solve a particular problem in the current business. And it does not really help you to jump the curve. So maybe to give one example, so what we really like to in delivering our honest insurance and our scoring into the process, we also take the opportunity to look how can we automate this flow of that they currently have, and not by focusing on fraud, but focusing on how to get the best experience for the genuine customers and to automate that process and making sure that in the early stage, if we can already market dark green based on the data that we need, and then have a seamless process after that, that helps the carrier to jump that curve and to give that immediately back to the customer. And my final remark on this part is that what we see is struggling insurance carriers a lot with is, of course, getting the data right. So we talk about technologies, we talk about AI, we talk about all of these things, but to have that data being able to use at that point in the process, that is really a struggle, and we understand that. So that's where these new technologies and also thinking other ways how to deal with that, get data from outside in your process that can really help jumping that curve.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to move the question on to another one and start with you, Linda, if I may. So we started by talking about trust and satisfaction and how low the insurance market is compared to other sectors, right? So you look across, you're sector agnostic, as we were discussing earlier, right? You look across industry. What do insurers need to do to build up the trust and sort of satisfaction levels? Is it one thing above anything else that insurers need to be thinking about doing better, differently?
I think a very large factor is, especially, we've seen it in one of the keynotes already, that trust is a huge problem, or let's call it challenge for the whole industry. We, since 10 years, when we talk about brand identity and how you build trust with your customers, talk about customer centricity, to be really human focused. With the new AI technology, especially with AI and the prediction models, we are really truly able to understand certain customer profiles and to really understand what they need, what their habits are, what they really are used, what they would like to see. And this is what I would like to also I cannot state it enough. The new technologies here really bring new technologies that enable you to really build customer profiles and enable you to really just target certain, especially younger profiles, in a way that you've never seen before. And there is a huge opportunity, especially for you, market, to build trust, because I'm totally with you, especially young customers, they want to be approached in a very different way. We see that across like all industries right now, that like the habits, how they shop, every behavior pattern changes rapidly with young generations, and how you target them is very specific, because they really expect also a different way in what you as a company, how you approach them. It's a little bit autistic, but that also comes with social media. One analysis, for example, shows that more than 70% of young generations, of the young people out there, they have the perception that you should know who they are. They really get angry with brands and product marketing if they get the feeling that it's not targeted to them personally. And this is really a number that should also really kind of scare all of us, because if you don't take that serious, you're using the young generations, you're not targeting them enough. So especially here, you have a great chance with AI.
Very good. So just on this theme of trust a little bit more, because Monika, you said earlier that the lack of touch points is one of the issues around that trust, building of trust. And I don't disagree with that, but just a little story from me. So one of my children, 18-year-old, just gone away on holiday to Asia. Our travel insurance is covered by our bank as part of the card services. My wife and my child checked the policy document, and on the front page it said, because he's over 18 now, it says if you're between 18 and 23, so long as you're in full-time employment and living at home, you're covered. Unfortunately, on the first day, he had quite a bad accident, needed some surgery to his leg. We ring up the claims line, and after 10 minutes, they say, can you just confirm who your son was traveling with? Well, he's actually on his own, he's an adult, he's over there with friends. Oh, well, you're not covered because on page 17 of the policy detail, it says you've got to be traveling with a close relative. So I said, well, what's your definition of close relative? Well, it doesn't really matter. So he could have been with his 9-year-old sister? Yes. So I ring up the bank, hoping for some kind of leniency, and they've just told me immediately I can complain to the regulator. My most important concern is I need travel insurance for my son, which would have cost us 10 euros at the airport. And no insurance company will now take us because he's traveled. And we went in good faith sending him on holiday because we thought he was covered based on the front page of the policy. And this sort of thing really annoys even me in the industry. And no wonder startups and new companies have an opportunity to disrupt, right? And create new ways in which customers can feel more valued, looked after, and clear, plain English or visible coverage, right? Monika, any response? Don't defend the company. I'm not asking you to.
I mean, you're spot on. I mean, the frequency of touch is one pain point. The other one is transparency. I mean, you cannot just put something on page number 17. The third one is then also clear language. I mean, a lot of people don't understand us. And I think that's something we have to change now relatively quickly. Because otherwise we lose the game. And apart from that, we also have to find new ways of dealing with customers and having ecosystems that are different from just selling policies. Because I don't think that we can stay within the parameters we have today if we want to serve the customer in the future. And the frequency of touch is one of the examples where you can come up with very innovative ideas to say, how do we deal with customers in a different way? It's not only about selling car insurances anymore and car policies. It's about taking care of the customer with new ecosystems like we just looked at the Tesla examples. The world is changing, and we cannot just sell the old products in the old innovation box we are thinking of. No green pullovers anymore.
So most insurers have got digital transformation on their strategic roadmap, right? Somebody's talking about it somewhere at a senior level for sure. Yet we know, if we look back over history, almost all transformations fail. So how are we going to square this circle that the industry knows it needs to transform? We're all customers. We know there are problems in the industry that need to be addressed. And yet, actually, most transformation projects fail and programs fail. So digital transformation, what's the secret sauce here? Christian, one thing that insurers need to do to improve the chance of success?
Yeah, so I think that's a hard question. There's not one thing, but I want to give one example.
Okay.
So we have been working with one of the leading online insurers in Holland, which is called Insured. From day one, they gave the customer a full digital process. We supported them in making sure that no bad risk could enter from, let's say, from day one in their portfolio. So they get, but for the rest, they totally reinvented the way that they engage the customer, give them the policy, serve the customer in a sense that was completely different. So they actually have zero underwriting department. There's nobody there. So they have customer service, but all the other stuff and also in claims, they were completely digital. And I've seen some examples throughout the world where they have similar versions of that, but this is 10 years ago. I would expect that, let's say, I would have seen more of these examples across the globe, that how they engage customers. And what I see that some countries are ahead in their digitalization process, so they can make this step instantly. The ones that are very far behind, they immediately go to this level, so they skip a whole bunch. And all the countries in between, they struggle with how to get out of this digitalization process, meaning that they have a lot to deal with current customers in that struggle.
Okay, so I kind of accept the pushback that there is no one silver bullet answer on that. So final question for everybody. I want a very brief answer, starting with Linda, coming back this way. We're all customers. Let's wind the clock forward 5 years as customers. What's the one thing you can predict that insurance is going to be doing better now than it has done up until now for us as customers? What's the one thing you're looking forward to from insurance?
I hope it's customer services, that you really are able to provide mobile-first services that really understand the needs of this single person.
Okay, good.
Better pricing.
Better pricing.
Easy to deal with solutions.
Easy to deal with solutions, okay.
Yeah, work together with trust and then give me the smoothest experience that there is. Trust and smooth experience.
I'll tell you what, as a customer, if we had one of these 4 in 5 years across the industry, I think it would be great. We're out of time, nearly, so I just wanted to close this by saying thank you to our panelists. I really enjoyed the discussion, but it's just the start, hopefully, of a journey, so please catch up with everybody during the rest of the day. And very much looking forward to meeting some of you as well. Just a quick plug for TDI, the digital insurer. We're sponsored by a lot of big companies in the market around the world. It's an open, free platform. You can sign up as a member for free, get a lot of good information to meet people like this and others all around the world. So thanks again to Omnius. Thanks to the panel. Look forward to catching up with you later. Okay.